Come fly with me, let's fly straight into the jaws of death. Halo 3 ODST's Kikowani Station may not be the most varied mission you'll have ever come across, but it's certainly not short on action, packing in plenty of aerial combat, some on-foot escapades, and even an encounter with a fearsome scarab. Kikowani Station kicks off with Romeo receiving some much-needed TLC following his encounter with a brute chieftain during the closing stages of NMPD HQ, with Buck deciding the best course of action is to steal a ride.
Wait here. We're gonna steal that ride. It's landing. Now's our chance. Mickey, you're with me.
This is the game's last flashback and the final level during which you play as anyone other than the Rookie, on this occasion Buck for a second time following Tayari Plaza earlier. By the time you reach its end, past has caught up with present and all events after occur simultaneously. The first thing I'm always reminded of when revisiting Kikowani Station is that it's the campaign's best looking environment. Bloom was an extremely prevalent graphical effect which was used gratuitously during gaming's 7th generation to effectively amplify light sources, creating a glow effect. ODST is not a title which managed to escape its bright, visually overpowering clutches, and the same is true of Halo 3 before it, although I find its use less egregious there. Much of the time I find it to be way too much, but here it sort of works. The way light sources cut through the darkness gives New Mombasa's lower levels a gorgeous futuristic aesthetic which is present elsewhere, but to nowhere near the same effect. That beauty does come at a cost, however, with many areas being so dark that use of your visor almost becomes mandatory. It makes total sense in world. The situation you find yourself in is exactly what it's designed for, but I personally prefer to use it as little as possible, especially given it makes the bloom effects even more invasive than they already are. Here, at times though, it can be a struggle to pick out enemies without it. Once the opening area has been cleared, Mickey hops in a nearby Phantom and Buck commandeers a Banshee.
Cabin secure. Flight controls read green across the board. Well, purple. But she's good to go, I think.
Okay, I'll grab a Banshee. You go get Dutch and Romeo.
On my way!
Let's talk about Halo 3 ODST's Banshee. It is one of the most hilariously overpowered vehicles in the entire series. Why? Well, let's take a quick look at Banshees in other titles' campaigns. Halo Combat Evolved's Banshee is finicky, lacking the boost function and ability to perform aerial maneuvers both introduced in 2, and dropping like a stone when not piloted. It's a tough nut to crack, but mastering it is very rewarding. Halo 2's Banshee is far more user-friendly. Along with the pair of aforementioned new features, when not being piloted, it hangs in the air while still retaining some forward momentum. You can pilot Banshees in Halo 3 and Halo Reach's single-player offerings if you know how, but they're primarily balanced for multiplayer, and so I'm less interested in them in this particular instance. In ODST, the Banshee is an absurd instrument of destruction custom-made to rain down death from above. Not only is it incredibly nimble, it also barely moves forward unless you tell it to, which essentially turns it into a particularly deadly turret, except you also have the option to reposition whenever necessary. Kikowani Station is undoubtedly one of Halo's easiest ordeals on Legendary because of it. It requires the least skill of any Banshee to pilot, and so I'm glad it's a one-off here, but it is a ton of fun to put through its paces during a shorter affair like this one. Using a Banshee for the vast majority of the mission also makes it a novel experience. Some sections featuring it in other Halos are more successful than others, 2's Scarab Escort during the Great Journey being my personal favourite, and with Bungie opting not to give us any Banshee sequences at all in 3 or Reach, opting instead to introduce the Hornet and Falcon respectively, the opportunity to get reacquainted with the Covenant's most memorable vehicle is a welcome one. As it begins to look like the area has been cleared of Covenant, enemy Banshees arrive to hassle you, and after they've been shot out the sky, you progress through a narrower area before reaching the next big battle.
Well, look at that. I think we found us a squid house. Give me an angle. I'm gonna burn it to the ground.
The Engineer's recharging stations don't serve much of a purpose beyond being fun to blow up to cause damage to everything around them, but they do give you some extra insight into how an enemy you've not encountered much at all functions. It's also appropriate they explode in such an exaggerated manner. Engineers, after all, use gas bladders in order to float through the air. This area isn't overly exciting compared to the final two which follow, but there is some dialogue it's possible to miss, although I'd imagine most won't. If you fly as high as you can go, you'll hear this exchange.
What do you see, Gunny?
A whole lot of Covenant gathering around the crater from that slip space rupture. I wonder what they're looking for.
The captain would have known.
Yeah, I bet you're right.
And if you keep your eyes peeled, you might also notice the Covenant's ongoing excavation of the artifact in the background. You do also get a brief glimpse of it during Kikowani Station's closing cinematic and during the game's ending, in case you missed it here. After opening the door to the passage which funnels you forwards, there's another quick narrow area teeming with Covenant who need to be mopped up in order to clear a path into the level's third large area. During ODST's vehicle-centric missions in particular, Bungie utilises a strict structure when it comes to level design I only really noticed recently, and it's Kikowani Station that made it most obvious to me. Each unfolds in a very straightforward manner due to the rigid formula they all follow. Kikowani Station is a series of large areas, with each connected to the next by a short narrow corridor. Earlier during Uplift Reserve the same is true, with large areas connected by short narrow corridors, and the same can be said of Kazingo Boulevard immediately after too. I'm sure you can see the pattern beginning to emerge. Do not conflate my drawing attention to this as being criticism. This miniaturized version of Bungie's famously tight pacing is almost a necessity given how brief ODST's vehicle missions are. That being said, it's a lot easier here to see how the sausage is made, so to speak, compared to the longer affairs in Combat Evolved, 2, 3 and Reach, where Bungie had larger environments to work with and a much bigger budget. As I've said many times before, Halo's constant transitioning between the enclosed and the open are brilliant and have always been a huge part of why I love the series, but I think it's fair to say those shifts are definitely better disguised and more varied in the series' more expansive titles. Bungie does do a consistently good job of scaling up encounters regardless of how templated ODST's levels are, and this one is no exception. Your first Banshee battle consists predominantly of ground troops with a couple of enemy air combatants thrown in at the end. The second has a lot more aerial threats to deal with in addition to the familiar foot soldiers, while the third occurring on screen right now adds Covenant anti-air defences for you to contend with. Then there's a Scarab blocking your escape to round things out in high-octane fashion. I don't usually talk about Easter eggs unless they feature my name, see Regret in Halo 2, but as composer Marty O'Donnell is a semi-frequent visitor to my channel, and because this change annoys me, I feel obliged to mention this one in particular. Flying over to the right side of the area and dropping down on a certain platform while playing on Legendary, you can see 343 Industries former creative director Frank O'Connor doing a spot of sweeping while the track Siege of Madrigal plays. It wasn't always like this. Originally it was Marty having a bit of a dance instead. I'd assume it was changed due to Marty no longer being connected with the franchise, but whatever the reason, it's not the same. There's a final smaller section before Kikowani Station's concluding set piece, one you have to work your way through on foot.
Damn, door's jammed. Must have lost power.
I'll head through on foot, see if I can find a workaround inside the tunnel.
An engineer on the backlines, a turret, a gaggle of invisible brutes and a chieftain make the encounter a tricky one, and while there's nothing overly spectacular to chat about here, I like that we get one final playable demonstration of Buck's abilities. No wonder he eventually joined the Spartan program. The final open space contains a mix of Covenant soldiers, Banshees and the like you'll have already seen a few times by this point, and it is of course the Scarab at the back of the area which requires the most attention. Having to dodge its constant attacks while clearing out the area so you can face it without being bothered is an interesting challenge, even if the distance between you and it means it isn't too much of a threat if you remain alert. Looking back at the other occasions Scarabs have been present throughout the series, I'd rank this one somewhere in the middle. It's hard to beat the Scarab double act towards the end of Halo 3's The Covenant, or that in The Storm, with mongooses zipping in between the gigantic beast's feet. Both I consider to be among the greatest set pieces Halo has to offer. I definitely prefer it to the encounter at the end of Metropolis, which has aged poorly compared to later battles, and the one featured in the Ark, which is notable only because you might be taking it on using a Scorpion. I'd argue it's probably the easiest of them all too. As discussed earlier, ODST's Banshee is an absolute monster, with it being incredibly easy to both shoot the Scarab and not be shot by it. Because there's also little room for it to maneuver, it's extremely easy to get behind it and finish the fight quickly, and landing on it and doing the job on foot isn't much harder either. It should also be noted that you're under no obligation to actually destroy the Scarab, and you can simply open the door and completely ignore it, but that's not really in the spirit of things. Once you've either left it in pieces or have rushed right past it, you're given one last opportunity to make a few engineer stations go bang before the team reaches clear skies and Kikowani Station ends. It's not yet time to escape though, with Buck deciding there's still more work to be done.
Look at those tunnels. Ones that aren't flooded are probably packed with buggers. Hell, I wouldn't go down there even if you ordered me to.
Come on, Veronica. What could be more important than that carrier?
My orders. And Buck, call me Captain.
Mickey, turn around. Find a safe place to set us down.
What? Why?
I lost something. Now I know where to find her.
Kikowani Station was always going to live or die based on how fun Halo 3 ODST's version of the Banshee was to pilot. Fortunately, it's awesome in an incredibly unbalanced way, and while that does mean the experience is something of a cakewalk no matter the difficulty, in the end it's probably all the better for it. Its gameplay may border on being repetitive at times, with nothing that really jumps out to speak of other than the admittedly entertaining Scarab battle, but its aesthetic helps pick up the slack. It's got a look unlike any other in the series. Very good looking, but fairly basic is an apt description, which I think fits Kikowani Station to a T. One last thing before I go, and apologies, I was going to come on camera for this, but I'm a little bit under the weather. This is the final video in my 3-year-long quest to cover every single Bungie developed Halo level. It's a bit of an odd one to end on, as the order I've covered them in has been erratic to say the least, so this might seem a strange message if you're watching this as part of a playlist, but regardless, I am incredibly happy to have finally completed the set after so many hours' work. Thank you for all your support during that time. This channel was originally a lockdown project which has blossomed into something quite remarkable, and that's primarily down to all of you watching, whether you've seen one video or have suffered through a lot more of them. Your continued support is very much appreciated. And with that, thanks for watching the video, boys, girls and Spartans. If you had a Scarab-tacular time, do consider liking, subscribing and sharing your thoughts, and fingers crossed we'll catch up again soon.